Rosa is the beloved Cocker Spaniel who shared our lives and brought huge joy to us for many, many years. Rosa was born on the 1st of March 2005 as a Blue Roan Cocker Spaniel, officially named Kennel Gwyn, Alabama. She was one of a litter of 6, and as she grew into a recognizable puppy-sized creature, she quickly made herself known as both adorable and mischievous. When we first met her, only a few weeks old, and when she was still staying with her family, she could sit on the palm of your hand. We visited Rosa a number of times when she was this young, and we noticed that she was always causing trouble, like nipping her brother's willies, and so she made a bit of a reputation for herself. Although she was smallest of the litter, she was probably the most respected or feared or kept away from, but still adorable. We visited quite a few times because the owners were not sure that we were good enough owners to have Rosa. We hadn't had a dog for many years, and the owners wanted to make sure that we were responsible people, but we kept coming back to see Rosa and built a relationship for her, and they finally agreed. Finally, we could bring her home and give her her new name, Rosa, which was the only one out of many thousands we all thought of that we both liked. She loved a lot of attention, as all puppies do. She was very interested in everything that was going on around her, and she loved being cuddled, but didn't stay still for very long. These turned out to be qualities that she continued to have and demonstrate well beyond puppyhood. While she was still very small, Rosa always wanted to be physically in contact with us continuously and didn't like to sleep unless she was right up against us. And when I was working at my computer, for instance, or reading a magazine, and instead of sitting in an armchair, if I discovered that when I knelt on the ground, she would instantly lie down and fall asleep between my legs and feet, and just stay there until I moved. Or indeed, if I lay down on the floor for my afternoon nap, she would then come and curl up beside my elbow, which was very endearing and lovely, and we both liked that. As she got a little bigger, Rosa continued to be irresistibly cute, adorable, and very cuddleable. Rosa only seemed to have 2 physical modes with nothing in between. You'd be either placid and probably asleep, or she'd be hyper-energetically active and tirelessly playful. And if it wasn't asleep, whatever she's doing, her tail would be wagging.
Rosa.
And this
Rosa.
was another characteristic
Rosa.
that she retained all her life. But this physicality and playfulness was always extremely gentle. She was a very enthusiastic but gentle dog. As she got bigger still, she quickly learned how to use the dog flap we installed for her to have access to the garden, where she always preferred for her toiletries, which on grass continued to be a lifelong preference for her in these matters.
Out. Good girl.
Now, it was winter and here was snow, something she'd obviously not encountered before. She developed a thick furry coat and never seemed to feel the cold, ever.
About that, Rosa. Is that your first snow? Hey?
You never do know what interesting items you might find buried underneath this white stuff. Maybe something to eat? After all, finding something to eat was always high on Rosa's agenda.
Rosa. This way. Who is it? Hey.
One of her most amusing and engaging habits was running madly round in circles, seemingly prompted by usually picking up on some element of enthusiasm among those she was with. Wait a minute, all that running around in circles is fine, but I need something to make it more fun. That's better.
What's that, Rosa? Rosa, what have you got? Run up and back.
As they say in Crocodile Dundee, that's not a bone, this is a bone. Rosa is now what you could call an adult. This is a reunion with her siblings. They're all saying, we're paying attention. Rosa's thinking, where can I run to next? It's a very joyful reunion. Her brothers may well be remembering who it was nipped their willies when they were young. But it's not long before Rosa gets the upper hand again and is doing mischief all over the place, possibly to the consternation of some of the other owners. Rosa is learning to play football. He doesn't really understand the finer points of the game, but anything that involves running around a lot very fast is fine with her.
Rosa, come.
And doing a bit of mischief is always good fun. Rosa was easygoing. She'd go along with pretty much anything you want to do with her, really. She always liked her cuddles. Rosa was so loving to everyone and so gentle in her manner, and we noticed that children who were otherwise frightened of dogs could find that they needn't be scared of her and they could develop a relationship with her. This was the start of a long career where she taught many children that they didn't need to fear all dogs, and where they learned to interpret dog behavior and find out which were safe and just have a relationship with dogs, which really helped them develop their confidence and really helped them in their growing up, and parents would be very pleased with this. Rosa loved all dogs as well as all people. In play, he was tireless with boundless enthusiasm. But after all the exuberant exertion, of course, there would have to be the total rest. And if that happened to be in among the discarded wrapping paper when it was Christmas, then that was a perfectly fine and cozy resting place. It's that ever-wagging tail again. You seem to be saying, I need to check out if there's anything going on out there. This is Rosa with her chum Archie, only a puppy then, but soon to grow to many times her size. Now this one looks like a dog alright, but doesn't really smell like anything very much. It's happy rolling time. All her life, Rosa did happy rolling whenever she felt particularly ecstatic, which was a lot. Could be in the countryside and on grass, could be at home on the carpet. It seemed to be a form of play with herself, which also meant she got to scratch her own back. Rosa is now growing up and becoming a bit of an older dog, but still much the same spirit. And still pretty much interested in everything that's going on. And of course, when nothing's going on, sleeping. We were well aware that Rosa liked all other dogs, but unfortunately didn't realize that not all other dogs liked her, so she could be too trusting of other dogs sometimes, which got her into one or two scrapes. The worst scrape was when we were out walking and Rosa ran ahead down a lane around a corner. I suddenly heard multiple large-sounding dogs barking and snarling and the most awful screaming from Rosa. Dashed round the corner and saw that she had gone through a gateway where she had encountered two giant mastiffs and an assortment of other angry dogs. One of the mastiffs had actually picked Rosa up in his huge jaws, which is how she got the puncture marks in this picture. That's how big that dog's jaws were. I waded in among the dogs, shouting at them and attacking the head of the dog in question with the only weapon I had to hand, a folded up Ordnance Survey map. Surprisingly and fortunately, the dog obeyed me and dropped Rosa, who raced off out the gate and away down the lane. I didn't realise she was seriously injured until the shock wore off that evening and it was clear that even walking around was painful for her. She made good recovery though and was soon back to her irrepressible self, but for a long time she was wary of approaching very large dogs. In late life, Rosa lost first her hearing and then gradually her sight, but these things didn't seem to bother her overly. She adapted. Sense of smell continued, probably the most important for dogs, and she was still physically fussed over as ever and enjoyed as much by everyone she met, and her irrepressible enthusiasm for life continued as ever, as well as the tail wagging, of course. This continued into her 15th year, a good age for a medium-sized dog. In her 15th year, Rosa suddenly became extremely ill. The vet said she had kidney failure and was dying. She had been put on a drip but had not responded and hadn't drunk water for 5 days. We brought her home to spend with her whatever time she had left. She was conscious lying on her side and we both took time off work to be with her for whatever time was left. But Rosa surprised us. That evening, she suddenly pulled herself up, wanted to go to the toilet outside, and drank a little water. Next morning, she wanted to go out to the street, albeit slowly, to do her usual duty of greeting and being made a fuss of by the children on the school run. I told them this was an opportunity for them to say goodbye to Rosa, which they did very lovingly. Rosa continued to surprise us. Clearly, she had a strong will to live because after a week, she started eating again. And over the following weeks, she put back on the 3 kilos she had lost from not eating and not drinking water for such a long time. And she went back to being pretty much her old self. The following year, Rosa was still doing well, but at the beginning of May, she suddenly seemed to lose strength in her back legs and was clearly in pain, which steadily grew worse. She became extremely depressed and seemed to have no relief from it. It was time for us to consider euthanasia. Very difficult decision to make because it obviously goes against everything you've been doing all this animal's life, keeping her well, protecting her life when she gets into danger, and just looking after her. But we knew it was now the right time, and she was never free of pain. Life no longer had any joy for her. The vet came to our garden. It was a lovely sunny day. When he arrived, Rosa detected his presence, walked up and greeted him with wagging tail. So innocent, so Rosa. Afterwards, we held Rosa in our lap for a long time, just loving her. You don't want your beloved pet and genuine family member to have gone. But we know that Rosa had a great life and a long one, 106 people years equivalent. She loved every bit of being alive, right up to perhaps her last couple of days. And we had with her that earlier miracle recovery and that precious extra time together. Rosa shared her joy with and was loved by very many people. Though still missing her, it seems right for us to keep her memory alive in a positive way by living ourselves the lessons she demonstrated and taught us in her life. Be interested in everything. Have boundless enthusiasm. Remember, every day is a new adventure. Nothing's happening. Take a rest. Fall asleep. Love everyone. And live in the moment.